The day I moved into Willow Creek, I thought I'd found paradise. The lawns were manicured to perfection. The communal gardens bloomed with vibrant roses, and the quiet streets exuded a sense of calm that matched my methodical, rule-loving personality. I'd spent years in chaotic apartments with noisy neighbors and overflowing dumpsters, so this suburban haven felt like a reward for all my patience. Little did I know, paradise came with a price, and her name was Margaret Hensley. It was a sweltering July afternoon when I first met her. I was knee-deep in cardboard boxes, sweat dripping down my back as I hauled my life into my new home, when a sharp, insistent knock rattled my front door. I opened it to find a woman in her late 50s standing there, her auburn hair teased into a helmet of curls, her crisp khaki shorts and polo shirt emblazoned with the Willow Creek Homeowners Association logo. She clutched a clipboard like it was a scepter, her hazel eyes narrowing as they sized me up. "Greetings," she said, her voice clipped and overly formal, like a school principal addressing a tardy student. "I'm Margaret Hensley, president of the Willow Creek HOA. I'm here to welcome you and to inform you that your moving truck has been parked in the street for over 4 hours. Per Section 8.2 of our bylaws, vehicles may not obstruct roadways for more than 3 hours without prior approval." I blinked, wiping sweat from my forehead. "Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know. I'm almost done unloading." She thrust a thick packet of papers into my hands before I could finish. "Here's a copy of the HOA Guidelines Ninety 2 pages. I suggest you study them thoroughly. We take our standards seriously here." Her lips curled into a smile that didn't reach her eyes, and with a curt nod, she turned on her heel and marched off, her sandals clicking against the pavement. That was my introduction to Margaret, as I'd later learn the neighbors called her, HOA tyrant. At first, I chalked it up to an overzealous welcome. I'm an IT systems analyst by trade, someone who thrives on structure and precision, so I figured I'd get along fine with a rule stickler like her. I even spent a rainy Sunday afternoon poring over those 92 pages, highlighting key sections and committing them to memory. I wasn't about to give Margaret any reason to come knocking again. But Margaret didn't need reasons. Over the next few months, she turned my life into a battlefield of petty citations. My hedges were non-compliant by half an inch. My porch light's wattage exceeded the approved limit by 10 measly watts. One morning, I found a notice taped to my mailbox because my recycling bin had a single plastic bottle cap that violated sorting protocols. Each notice bore her loopy, self-righteous signature and a thinly veiled threat of fines for continued non-compliance. It was maddening, but I kept my head down. I coiled my garden hose into perfect loops, repainted my mailbox in the exact shade of willow gray, and even bought a ruler to measure my grass. I wanted peace, not war. The neighborhood buzzed with whispers about Margaret's reign of terror. At the monthly HOA meetings mandatory, of course I heard the stories. Tom, a grizzled retiree down the street, got slapped with a $200 fine because his dog barked 3 times past 9 p.m. Lisa, a single mom 2 houses over, was threatened with legal action when her son's basketball rolled into Margaret's pristine yard. Everyone grumbled, but no one fought back. The few who tried, like poor old Mr. Jenkins, who dared to plant unapproved tulips, found their mailboxes stuffed with violation notices and their lives under Margaret's relentless microscope. She wielded the HOA bylaws like a weapon, and her 5-year tenure as president had made her untouchable. Things came to a head one frigid November night. I'd been at the office until 3 a.m., wrestling with a ransomware attack that had crippled our company's servers. By the time I staggered home, the sky was a bruise of gray, and exhaustion weighed on me like a wet blanket. I pulled into my driveway, my tires crunching over a thin layer of frost, and parked slightly off-center me, front wheel resting on the edge of my lawn. It wasn't blocking anything, just a tired slip on my own property. I stumbled inside, collapsed onto my couch, and passed out. I woke to the sound of my phone buzzing incessantly. Bleary-eyed, I checked it. 5 missed calls from an unknown number and an email from Margaret with the subject line, "Immediate violation notice, vehicle removal." My stomach sank as I read her message. Your vehicle is illegally parked on landscaping, violating Section 13.6. After multiple unsuccessful attempts to contact you, it has been towed at your expense. Retrieve it from Ace Towing within 24 hours or face additional fees. I bolted upright and ran to the window. My car was gone. In its place sat a mocking little business card from Ace Towing, wedged under a rock. Fury surged through me, hot and sharp. I called the towing company, my voice shaking with anger. This has to be a mistake. She can't tow my car from my own driveway. The guy on the other end sounded bored, like he'd heard this 100 times. Look, buddy, we've got a contract with the HOA. The president called it in. You owe $3.50 cash only. Take it up with her after you pay. I hung up, pacing my living room as rage battled with disbelief. Then a memory flickered those hours spent reading the bylaws. Something about this didn't feel right. I grabbed my highlighted copy from the shelf, flipped to Section 13, and scanned the text. There it was in black and white. Vehicles could be towed from common areas without notice, but removal from private property required a documented history of the same violation and a vote from at least 3 board members. Margaret hadn't followed any of that. She'd acted alone, like some petty dictator. I wasn't about to let this slide. I snapped photos of my driveway, clearly private land, not a communal blade of grass in sight, and dug through my inbox for every notice she'd sent me. None mentioned parking violations. Armed with evidence, I called the non-emergency police line. I'd like to report an illegal towing, I said, keeping my voice steady. Someone had my car removed from my property without legal authority. While I waited for an officer, I fired off an email to the entire HOA board, attaching the bylaws, my photos, and a detailed account of Margaret's overreach. I titled it Formal Complaint, Abuse of Power by HOA President. Then I sat back, adrenaline pumping, and watched the chaos unfold. Officer Daniels arrived 20 minutes later, a stocky man with a no-nonsense demeanor. He listened as I laid out the situation, showing him the bylaws and my empty driveway. So, you're saying she had your car towed without proper approval? He asked, rubbing his chin. That's not just an HOA dispute. That's theft conversion, technically. Let me see what I can do. Before he could radio for backup, a black SUV roared into my driveway, gravel flying. Margaret leapt out, her face a mask of fury, clipboard in hand like a shield. What is the meaning of this? She barked, glaring at the police cruiser. Why is there an officer here? Daniel stepped forward, calm but firm. Ma'am, I'm investigating a report of an illegal towing. This resident says you had his vehicle removed from his private property without authorization. Margaret's eyes flashed. I'm the HOA president. I have full authority to enforce our rules. His car was on the lawn landscaping violation, Section 13.6. I called him multiple times, and he ignored me. He brought this on himself. Ma'am, Daniels interrupted, holding up my copy of the bylaws. I've reviewed the rules. Towing from private property requires board approval and a history of violations. Did you get that approval? Margaret faltered, her grip tightening on the clipboard. To act in the community's best interest when the board isn't available. It was an urgent matter. Did you get approval from 3 board members? Daniels pressed. No, but then you had no legal right to tow his car, he said flatly. I'm going to need you to call the towing company and have it returned. No charge right now. Margaret's jaw dropped, her face turning a mottled red. Absolutely not. He broke the rules, and he'll pay the consequences. What happened next felt like a scene from a movie. Daniel sighed, pulled out his radio, and called for another unit. Ma'am, if you refuse, I'll have to arrest you for theft by conversion. This isn't an HOA issue, Anna Marie, it's criminal. You can't be serious. Margaret sputtered, her voice rising to a shriek. Do you know who I am? I've run this neighborhood for 5 years. My husband golfs with the chief of police. Daniels didn't flinch. Doesn't matter who you know. Turn around, please. He produced a pair of handcuffs, and Margaret's bravado crumbled. She stumbled back, eyes wide, as he gently but firmly cuffed her wrists. You have the right to remain silent, he began, reciting her Miranda rights as she shrieked about lawsuits. and her connections. Neighbors emerged from their homes, drawn by the commotion. I saw Tom grinning ear to ear, Lisa snapping photos with her phone, and even old Mr. Jenkins peeking through his curtains, a rare smile on his weathered face. Margaret, the untouchable tyrant, was being loaded into a squad car, and it was glorious. Daniel sent another officer with me to retrieve my car from Ace Towing, free of charge. The guy at the lot grumbled, but handed over the keys when he saw the police badge. By the time I got home, my inbox was flooded with replies from the HOA board, all promising an emergency meeting to address Margaret's actions. That meeting, held 3 nights later, was a reckoning. The community center overflowed with residents, the air thick with anticipation. The vice president, a meek accountant named Greg, took the podium. "Margaret Hensley has been removed from her position effective immediately," he announced, his voice trembling slightly. Her arrest, combined with evidence of selective enforcement and abuse of power, left us no choice. A murmur rippled through the crowd. Then the treasurer, a wiry woman named Claire, dropped a bombshell. "We've completed an audit of HOA funds," she said, holding up a stack of papers. Margaret funneled over $20,000 into personal projects, new patio furniture, a gazebo for her backyard, even a custom fountain under the guise of community improvements. She's been ordered to repay it, and the police are investigating her for embezzlement. The room erupted. People cheered, clapped, even hugged. For years, Margaret had ruled with an iron fist, skimming dues while terrorizing us with her clipboard. Now she was finished. The next morning, I stepped outside to grab my newspaper and froze. Across the street, Margaret stood on her lawn, still in her HOA polo, screaming at a process server as he handed her a thick envelope lawsuit papers from the HOA. No doubt. Her hair was a wild mess, her face contorted with rage. "I'll sue you all," she bellowed, shaking her fist at the sky. "This isn't over." But it was. Her reign was done, and Willow Creek breathed freer than it had in years. As I sipped my coffee, watching her tantrum unfold, I couldn't help but smile. That rainy Sunday with the bylaws had saved me thousands and delivered justice sweeter than I'd ever imagined. If you were the one in this story, how would you react? Would you stand up and fight back, or accept the unreasonable pressure and control from the HOA? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe, like, and share this VY Deo with more people. Your small action gives us the motivation to keep bringing you more intense and engaging stories. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next VY Deo.